welcome to the Selling Smarter show with RevGrow. And if you or your company sells B2B, this show is your go-to resource to help you sell smarter using LinkedIn. So my name is Chris Rudolph, and I'll be your host. And during each show, we'll interview a LinkedIn expert around a key topic that will help you move the sales needle forward so that you can fill your sales pipeline and not have to worry where your next customer will come from. Today we have Cathy Yerges with us. Cathy is a LinkedIn marketing expert and is an account director with RevGrow. So welcome to the show, Cathy.
Hey, thanks, Chris. It's great to be talking to you today.
All right, so today we're going to discuss how to make the most of conferences using LinkedIn. But before we dive in, tell us a little bit more about you and how you got into working with LinkedIn.
Sure. Well, I guess it's just a sign of the times. I've been working with B2B clients for about 12 years now. And over that time period, more and more people have transitioned to social media. And the clients in my space just gravitated towards LinkedIn because it is the B2B platform. So I just, about 8 years ago, really just started diving into LinkedIn to figure out how we can expand the networks. My clients were doing a lot of in-person networking, a lot of conferences, a lot of email marketing, and we just wanted to explore how LinkedIn could be leveraged with those other forms of marketing, and it's just expanded from there. And I met Mark McIntosh of RevGrow a few years ago, and we have been able to do some great work together here with RevGrow.
Oh, it's always fascinating how people get involved with social media just because it is still new and very rare. It's very rare that people have like a formal education background, but it's always interesting to hear kind of the backstory on how people
exactly. A lot of people are self-taught, and there's certainly a lot of certification programs out there. But really, you have to just buckle down and do it to learn it. Mm-hmm. So that's really how I learned in the early parts, and then learned from a lot of the other experts, many of them that you've been interviewing as well.
Awesome. Well, so we're going to talk in-person conferences and LinkedIn. So, on the surface, they don't seem to go together. So why use LinkedIn for conferences?
Yeah, many people think that they should be held in different silos, that they don't interchange. And really, I look at conferences as a great way to expand your LinkedIn network, and LinkedIn as a great way to get a higher ROI out of your investment of going to a conference. Because really, at the end of the day, it's all about meeting people and building relationships with them, sharing what you know about the industry, and also helping to serve them and solve some of their pain points. And so really they go hand in hand.
Yeah, so that's really, really interesting. So maybe share an example of whether it's a personal story or with a client that you've worked with that has utilized LinkedIn, at a conference. Sure. And been successful.
Sure. Well, we had a sales director for one of my clients who wanted to attend a trade show. He felt it was really going to help him define his niche that he wanted to work in, but he needed some help funding the trip. It wasn't going to be a cheap trade show or conference with the cost of registration and the hotel and airfare. So we had to analyze the ROI that he was going to be able to get from that. So we set out by aligning some goals or just figuring out what do we want to get out of this conference. And once we understood maybe how many meetings he wanted to have while at the conference, how many new people he wanted to reach, how many phone calls he wanted to have afterwards, we could go about using LinkedIn to accomplish those goals. So he ended up leaving to head to the conference knowing that he had 20 appointments already set up to happen in the 3 days of the conference. Wow. So these were meetings that he was going to have during the breakfast, the early bird session, the lunch breakouts, the happy hours, the day before, because he wanted to meet with some of the vendors that he knew would be busy once all the attendees came. So he left for that conference already having 20 meetings lined up. And, then it just makes that, it takes away a lot of the awkwardness at the conference because you've already reached out to these people. You're not meeting them for the first time. You may be meeting them in person for the first time, but you've already had communication with them. So you can really get down to a serious conversation while you're at that conference. And then, of course, it's key to follow up. So how are you going to continue that relationship once you get back to your office after the fun of the conference?
Wow, that's powerful. 20 appointments before you even even show
before
up.
you even land at the conference. Yep.
Yeah. So that's really powerful because I think, at least been my experience, your day-to-day life is busy, your work life is busy, and you're kind of screaming to get out of town to go to a conference or, set up your booth if you're a
Right. It's
vendor.
difficult. It's difficult because you have to figure out the booth and travel arrangements, and you have to get the work done so you can leave. And when you come back, you're going to be bombarded with work. You've got family life to manage while you're gone, and it can be really overwhelming. There's a lot of things you should be doing, but what I like to do, and with the team at RevGrow, what we do is help systematize that so we get done all of those things you should be doing before, during, and after that conference. By utilizing LinkedIn. We're kind of your right hand, so to speak, as you go through that process.
That's really great. I was thinking too, you're just trying to, get out of town or, to drive or fly to a conference. And I don't think it's natural that you think of like, what are you actually trying to accomplish or who are you trying to meet before? And a lot of times it's just show up in kind of random, like you're in a big, like convention center. Yep. And you're hoping to like bump into people. But I like when you're talking about how like that really systematic and targeted approach, and
right.
we're
all busy.
Yeah.
Right. We're all busy. And, I can't spend, even if it's a local conference that I'm going to attend, I can't spend a half day at a networking event without it proving out in ROI, whether it's a relationship that I'm going to foster or if it's a new prospect that I'm going to meet. What is the ROI of my time? As small business people, as professionals, our biggest asset is the time that we have. And so just making sure that we're using it and utilizing it. Sure, your company is worried about the money they're going to spend as they send you, but really for me to leave my family for 3 days and go to a conference, it needs to show some results. And that it's fine, but it takes a little prep work. You have to have that strategy in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I imagine too, like if you have a strategy and you're measuring that, you actually have something to bring back to, your company, whether, it's a boss or to share with your team on the results that you're doing.
Exactly. So companies, their marketing budget is strained, and if they're in an industry where there's a lot of trade shows or conferences, they want to attend them all, but really take an analysis of where you're getting the bigger ROI. Where is your audience more engaged? What conferences are the organizers doing things to help you network? One of the conferences that RevGrow has attended actually has a matchmaker software in place to help leverage those meetings and getting those meetings in place. So don't take that stuff for granted when it's offered to you. The happy hours, I know we're all exhausted after the long day, and if you're an introvert like myself, you just want to go back to the hotel room, but those happy hours are where business happens. So you have to have a plan to not only manage your time, but manage your energy levels and really figure out how you can get the most out of your experience.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So I'm thinking, the roles you can be at a conference, you can be a vendor, you can have a booth, you can be a speaker, or you can just be an attendee. Which one of those roles makes sense to use LinkedIn for?
Well, really all of them. The strategy is going to differ, but obviously if you're a vendor, you have a little bit higher investment because you're having to pay for the booth or your space to present. Maybe you're sending multiple sales reps. And so for them, I think it's really critical to have a full strategy in place before, during, and after. Understand and support the people that you're sending to that conference with the tools that they're going to need to do the follow-up, because honestly, that's where everybody drops the ball. Is once you get back, you're inundated with all the emails and voicemails from when you were gone. And if you let those warm prospects go cold, it's going to be very hard. So have the strategy and the support in place to help them complete that prospecting cycle with those people. But it really can work for attendees, speakers, even people who are attending remotely. If there's a virtual pass, I know, Chris, you go to a couple conferences that have a virtual pass. You can engage with people on social media similarly. you're not going to have a drink with them at happy hour, but you can still be involved in the conversation and understand what they're interested in, what they're presenting, and you can network with them that way.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. So you talked about, pre, during, and post conference. So talk a little bit about the pre-conference on, that strategy and what you do.
Yeah, there's some homework to do. So it's about putting your best face forward. And so the first thing to do is, really understand what your goals are. What do you want to walk away from? Is it to get demos of your product? Is it to get proposals out? Is it just to add new people to your network? From there, if you're using social media, if you plan to use social media, make sure your profiles are up to date. So on LinkedIn, the biggest thing there is make sure you have a current headshot. If I'm trying to meet you in a crowded breakfast conference room, I want to be able to know what you look like. And if you have a photo from 10 years ago, it's going to make it difficult for me. So some people go as far as wearing their branding colors just so they're easy to pick out in the crowd of everyone wearing black or blue.
Oh, that's good.
So just have a current headshot. And Chris, I think in the social media world, there's a lot of people who kind of wear their branding colors. And just so that it is consistent with the profile photos that they're seeing on social media.
Yeah, I can think of a friend of mine, Adam Buchanan. I've been to conferences with him,
sure.
And his brand, he has like red glasses on.
His red glasses, sure.
So like I was planning to meet up with him, in the hallway, and I looked around and I saw the guy with the red glasses. I'm like, that's got to be Adam, and that just made it a lot warmer.
A lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't change your glasses the week before you go to a conference if that's what people know you by.
Yeah.
So things like that. If you, however you're dressed on your social media profile, if you're in a suit, well, then, prepare and dress as in a suit. But if you're more casual, just make it easy for people to find you. So that's the first thing. Also on LinkedIn, a lot of people tend not to update their LinkedIn profiles until they're searching for a job. And so I find so many people who don't even have their current position or their current company that they're working for listed on their profile. Well, if you're going to a conference representing your current company and it doesn't say that on your LinkedIn profile, it's just going to cause a lot of confusion. So look for things like that, your contact information. Make sure that it's linked to your company page and that it references the type of work that you do and the type of people that you help. And if you're going to be leveraging social media, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, have some sort of takeaway that people can get once they visit your profile. Maybe it's a download, maybe it's a short video, maybe it's just an intro video letting them know that you're happy to meet them. But have a little takeaway when they visit your profile. It'll just leave a good impression for them when they visit.
What are a couple of major mistakes that you see with profiles that are pretty common?
Well, the photo is a big one. The next I would say is the headline. The headline is the title that comes along with your profile, and people don't utilize that space to the full benefit that it has for you. Don't leave it as default saying sales manager for XYZ company. Put a value proposition in there. Let customers know or clients know how you can help them. We all know that we're in sales. Everybody is in sales. But honestly, if you can change your LinkedIn profile to take the word sales out of your headline or sales out of your title, nobody feels like being sold, especially if it's out in front. So I work with a lot of my clients to say, can we tweak your title a little bit within the range of what your company is happy with, so that it doesn't just come off as that you're a salesperson, because nobody really wants to talk to a salesperson. They'd rather talk to a solution provider or an industry expert. So it's how you present yourself. And then, there's so many things we see, but really contact information. If I'm looking at your LinkedIn profile and I want to have a further conversation with you, make it easy for me. So make sure your email address or phone number or website, something is there, so I don't hit a dead end waiting for you to accept my LinkedIn connection so we can have a conversation. Put your email address out there so people can contact you.
Oh, those are super valuable. Those are really, really good, Cathy. So, I'm thinking the goal is to actually connect with people before the conference. how can you find out like who's going to be there and if, they fit the right description?
Yeah. Again, so you're going to go back to your strategy of who you want to connect with, but there's a few different ways. With all of the privacy laws, it's not as easy to just get a attendee list. If you're a vendor, oftentimes that is worked into your contract that you will get a copy of the attendee list. So see if you can get that ahead of time. It often won't be the most up to date because you'll have some last minute people registering, but it'll give you a start. So really, that's one thing. If you're paying to vend or display at a trade show or conference, see if you can get the attendee list. The other is look at the website, look to see maybe who attended in the past or who is going to be there as a vendor, maybe who some of the speakers are. Certainly connect with the conference organizers because they are probably going to have a lot of people in their network also on LinkedIn. So once you're connected to the conference organizer, you can probably connect out to other people in the industry. Look for the conference hashtag. Most conferences these days have a unique hashtag. So do some searching on social media platforms for that hashtag because anybody using that hashtag is going to be affiliated with that conference. So you have to do a little research, a little digging. It's not as easy as just having an Excel file with all the names on there, but there's different ways that you can find out who's going to be attending. Nothing else, just post it out on LinkedIn. We have one client who did that. They're doing 3 conferences back to back. They posted that they're going to be at these 3 conferences, and lots of people spoke up and say, hey, I'll be there. Look forward to seeing you in Florida. Maybe we can catch up. So just tell people that you're going to be there and wait for some responses to come in.
That's good. That's good. One thing I've seen a few people do recently is they actually create content on like tips for the conference, like where to stay at this conference or who to see, or, if they have experience at that conference, that kind of, opens up the conversation too.
Definitely. If you've attended the conference before, you have an insider's perspective of the things that are not to miss and the things that maybe you could do a little bit easier. So creating a tip list like that is great. Some people go as far as even organizing their own meetup. So maybe instead of a bunch of one-on-one coffees or time to get together, they organize their own little meetup. And so it's an opportunity to invite people to a smaller group, a smaller conversation, maybe not as intimidating as a one-on-one because people want to maximize their time too. So they don't want to maybe schedule a lot of one-on-ones. But if you have a meetup for a small happy hour with 10 people that show up, that's 10 people that not only you're meeting and you're helping, but you're also in that leadership position of helping them connect with each other. So you sort of play this host for the event where you're helping bring other people together. Nice.
That's good. So now that we're in our pre-work, we're identifying who we want to connect to. Now what do we do next?
Yeah. So, be sure to engage with the content that the conference is putting out. The conference is doing a lot of work to not only market the event, but also highlight some of the speakers or topics that are going to be presented. So keep an eye out for that and engage with that content. That'll open up the doors for some other conversations. And then you want to continue that once you're at the conference. I know we sort of go head down and we're in full network mode, but don't forget to engage in social in some off time. Just taking a few minutes to look at the social media feeds to see what other people are posting about the conference, to see if there are any meetups happening. Again, using that hashtag to find the conversations. Take some photos. Let people know that you've arrived and that you're looking forward to the conference. Let them know where they can find you at the conference. If you have a giveaway or doing demos or scheduling anything at the conference, let people know that on social media. So have a social media plan for while you're at the conference as well. And some of this can be pre-scheduled. So maybe you have a team back at the office that can help you do some of this ahead of time about promoting your booth or your event. But then you want to make sure that you add everybody that you meet to your LinkedIn network. So that's the biggest thing. In olden days, we would come back from a conference with a stack of business cards, and it was our job to go through those. Nowadays, or a fishbowl, if you have a trade show booth, maybe you have a fishbowl for a drawing, and your job when you got back to the office was to go through those. You can make it easier on yourself and just open up the LinkedIn app on your mobile phone. Connect with people right there as you're having a conversation. At the very least, connect with them that evening when you're back at your hotel or when you're back at the airport on your way home. Leave them a note saying it was great meeting them. You'd love to carry on the conversation. But connect with them on LinkedIn because, again, you're going to get busy when you get back to your office, and those business cards or those drawing slips or those notes you took about connecting with people are going to sit for a couple of weeks. But if you connect with them on LinkedIn, you're connected. And you're going to be able to stay in touch with them just because you're part of your network now.
Yeah. How about that, the QR code that you can have and connect with? Can you share a little bit about that? I know that's
so LinkedIn created the QR code. And it really works best if you're at a conference where they promote use of it because it's geolocation. So people have to have that QR code page on their mobile app open in order for it to work. So if I don't have that open and I'm standing next to you, it's not going to find me. But if at the conference, they mention or they promote that people should connect via the QR code, a hard term for me to say, you want to have that open on your mobile app because then others who are in that geolocation can find you. And it's a great way to see who else is there and connect with them, especially if it's a crowded space. But that's the key. Everyone just has to have it open in order for it to work. But LinkedIn wants you to connect in person. So they're trying to make it easier for you and integrate with your in-person events and meetings so that you can connect online.
Very interesting. Any tips? You talked about the gentleman who had the 20, pre-conference meetups or one-on-one setup. Any tips around how to set those up?
Yeah. So we used kind of a 3-part messaging sequence. Once we connected with them on LinkedIn, again, finding out who the attendees are, doing some research in that space. We connected with them on LinkedIn. And then we, mentioned that we were aware that everyone was going to be busy. A lot of these people were actually the other vendors. And so they don't get an opportunity to schedule a lot of appointments. Their time is usually used on the trade show floor. So we're very proactive about talking to people about if they were going to be coming in the night before or if they were going to be staying the morning after, just due to flight arrangements. And we were able to get a number of those meetings even before and then after the actual conference dates. But just saying, I'd love to meet up for coffee. How about, the breakfast breakout on Thursday? So letting people, you have to ask. Again, a lot of people aren't in this mindset of setting up appointments before they go. So don't be afraid to ask. Or say, I'm going to be hosting a table at lunch. I'm the table topic host at lunch. I'd love for you to join me at lunch. A lot of conferences have that where they have people host the table. So be proactive about who you want at your table and do some of that sort of engagement. For another client, we also they worked with us. And so our team was helping them while they had their boots on the ground. But the morning of the conference, we sent messages out wishing everybody a successful conference day and reminding them to stop by our booth, letting them know which booth we were going to be at, and then letting them know that they could register for the iPod or whatever the client was giving away. So it was just this gentle touch because everybody gets up that morning, having their coffee, looking at their social media. And so to get a message just acknowledging, hey, we're in the same space. Hope you have a great day at the conference. Swing by booth 15. We're going to be there. We'd love to talk. That client told us that the vendors around him were coming to him asking how he got so much traffic to his booth.
Interesting.
Because people were walking right past these other booths, but they were looking for booth 15. So again, it's developing that know, like, and trust. They already know you. You've already invited them. You don't have to, try to capture their attention as they're going down the trade show floor. You're letting them know where to find you, and you're welcoming them to a conversation.
Yeah, that's really good because I know both as in the past where I've been attendee or I've actually had a booth. There's kind of this, I don't know what you would call it. It's like people don't want to make eye contact with you if you're a
Yeah,
stranger, and they
right.
don't want, they think that they're going to get sold. So it's kind of,
Again, another sales pitch. Yep.
tunnel vision. But I think, yeah, that warm introduction totally changes that when you can establish that know, like, and trust factor even a little bit before.
Yeah. Yes, because they'll see your face. You'll have an updated picture on your profile. They'll know what you look like, and you can break the ice with, "Hey, we just connected on LinkedIn. Great to meet you in person." So it's just those little steps of building the relationship. But really, it got noticed. Our client was asked by multiple people how he got so much traffic past his booth, which increases those conversations, increases people leaving their information for future follow-up. And just makes the conference much more successful for them.
Yeah, I've even had the experience of you kind of bump into someone and they're like, "How do I know you?" And it was, like just touch points. We hadn't met in person,
Yep.
but it was just from
Yep.
LinkedIn. So
Right. If you really foster your LinkedIn network and connect with people in your designated industry, that's going to happen. I've been, Chris, you and I have been at events where people come up to you and said, "Oh, I know you." And
yeah,
I don't, but they connected with me on LinkedIn. And,
yeah,
I haven't built that strong of a relationship with absolutely everybody on my LinkedIn network, but they see me because people share the content and they share the information out there. And so just be visible. That's the other key, is just to be visible and share content. Once you connect, you can't forget about them. You have to either share content to your feed so everybody can see it, or you need to send some messages through LinkedIn just to stay visible. So that's part of the post-conference plan, is how are you going to stay in touch with these people? How are you going to engage with them enough after the conference so that you can line up some phone calls? And oftentimes it's as simple as saying, "Hey, we really didn't have a chance to meet at the conference. I'd love to set up a phone call just to get acquainted." Or, "It was great talking to you. I'm sorry we didn't have more time at the conference. How about lining up a phone call to continue our conversation?" Because hopefully you have a successful booth and lots of people are coming by, or maybe it's just that person you got to sit next to during one of the presentations. And everybody's so busy and somewhat distracted. So take good notes during the conference of what you talked about, how you want to follow up, and then to have a plan for doing that via LinkedIn or via email or via the phone after the conference.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about, the pre-conference and a little bit about during the conference. How about, during the conference, what else would you recommend doing?
Yeah, really engaging with what's going on there. Taking photos, sharing some highlights from the speakers. So if you're at the keynote breakfast and, either the speaker shares a resource, feel free to share that resource out. If it's linking to their website, I'm sure they'd love the increased traffic. If it's, a quote that they say, you've got there's lots of apps on your phone. You can create a quick graphic with a quote that one of the speakers says and post that out there to LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. Tag the speaker. So be sure that you're using the hashtag and that you're tagging people so that they see it in their feeds and then their networks see it as well. And again, just be consistent. Let people know. Try to keep the sales in the background. Be there to encourage, support others, to highlight what people are learning, to share some of the new innovations that are coming out at the conference. You talked about doing kind of the summary before the conference. Well, people can write a summary after the conference of the best takeaways of the conference. So that's much harder to do if you wait until after the conference to think about what you learned. So during the conference, take notes, and then afterwards it would be easy to do a top 10 things we learned from this conference this year, or the best quotes from the speakers. Those sorts of posts tend to go viral because there's lots of people to mention in them.
Yeah.
And people love to be quoted on social media.
Totally. That's a great tip. You'd mentioned, sharing out the quotes that you hear and using apps. What's an app that you recommend using?
I personally like Canva, and Canva works on mobile, but there's some that are even, there's Quotable, which is even easier than that. So I use Canva for mobile to do a quick graphic image. But the iPhone, and I have an Android, so iPhones have a lot of other tools. So look ahead of time and install and learn how to use an app for doing graphics and also some short videos. It's easy to do some short videos. So get familiar with your phone and put it to good use while you're at the conference. What are some of your favorite? Do you use an iPhone, Chris?
I do. And I use Canva.
Yep.
Yeah.
Canva for iPhone as well.
Yeah. I haven't tried many of them, but I think Canva has worked for me. So I haven't really had a reason to not.
Right. Exactly. Canva is great because I like it because the interfaces with desktop. So I can use it on mobile or on my desktop. So that's why I like Canva.
Yeah, I think one of the things you talked about is, kind of playing the reporter a way of, what's going on, the new innovations or the speakers, or even if it's selfies with, someone that you've made a really good connection with.
Yep.
I'm not a natural, personally, I'm not a natural, like, I just, take a lot of photos and selfie person. I know some people that's like really, really natural, but what I've been finding is, and I've been trying to come out of my shell a little bit with that, is then you have a lot of images where you can do those kind of wrap-up posts, or, even let's say you're going to attend the same conference or be a vendor at the same conference the next year. You have a library of images that you can do to set up that pre-content for the next year.
Definitely. Someone on our team here at RevGrow, they work with a client who hosts just a small monthly meetup, but they take some photos, maybe 10, 20 photos of that event. And our team then turns that into a short video that can be shared out on social media. And so the photos you can share them one-off as they happen, or you can sort of do a collection or a wrap-up video with those images. There's lots of apps out there too to do that sort of thing, even just using a simple slide share program to create a video format file to just share the highlights after your conference.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. I had never thought of that.
Well, video is the hot thing on all the platforms now. So if you can take those images and, level it up into a video, you'll get a lot more traction with it too.
That's good. And I know I saw the announcement that LinkedIn is going to have live video coming out soon. So who knows, by the time,
So
our viewers are at their next conference, they might have that in their disposal as well.
Right. So just a sign that LinkedIn is loving video, that it's done well for people who have uploaded native video and now they're ready to move to live video. So embrace it, people. You got to love it.
So we've talked about before the conference and during the conference. What would you have for strategies and tips for after the conference?
Yep. So again, make sure that you're doing that follow-up. So whatever the plan was initially to do that follow-up, was it to get them on an email list? Was it to get a phone call with them? Was it to send them a one sheet? Make sure you're doing that follow-up. The biggest thing really is get the help that you need. So either block out the time even before you leave for the conference to do this sort of follow-up, or if you work for a larger company, talk about who on your team can help you with some of that follow-up. Or if you're doing it by yourself, find freelancers, find a company like RevGrow or a virtual assistant who can help you with some of that follow-up, again, depending on what it is. If it's sending emails, if it's doing graphic work, if it's doing that compilation post, if it's connecting and messaging people on LinkedIn, find the people who can support you, because it will get overwhelming. Just know that up front. And you don't want to kick yourself for not being able to get to it after the conference. Many times I look at the piles of information I've gathered from the conference 3 months later, and it's kind of old news by then. And so to circle through all of that information and materials that you get the help that you need early on to do that follow-up. But then again, if you've connected with them on LinkedIn and you're posting consistently, they're going to see that, and you're going to stay top of mind. And you're going to just keep building that know, like, and trust with them so that you can ask them later in the year for a phone conversation or a meeting, or you can even prepare if you have kept records and tagged them as to where you met them. if you've tagged them within a LinkedIn that you met them at this conference, then next year at that conference time, you can reach out to them and ask if they're going to be attending again. So again, keep good records. Keep good records of where you've met, what you talked about. And a lot of that is basic sales 101 of just keeping your notes and doing your follow-up. But LinkedIn can be leveraged for all of those steps along the way.
Yeah, you'd mentioned tagging. How do you do that in LinkedIn?
So within LinkedIn, if you have LinkedIn Sales Navigator, you can add a tag, which will help you filter your network within LinkedIn. So I highly recommend people get Sales Navigator. The basic LinkedIn is great, but if you're serious about business development and serious about staying in touch with your network through the platform, get Sales Navigator. It's not that expensive. It's about $75, $80 a month, but it allows you to, one, connect with a lot more people than the basic LinkedIn profile does. It also allows you to do much more expanded searches. And then it allows you to do this tagging and creating custom lists. So you can either, when you're in Sales Navigator, you'll see an option just to create a tag, and you can create a custom tag labeled with that conference name, and that's how you know that all those people came from the conference. You can also create custom lists in LinkedIn Sales Navigator now. So if you save a person's profile, you can save them to a specific list, so you know that they came from that particular conference or a different event. So Sales Navigator is really becoming a great tool to track where people are coming from and how you're engaging with them. And it is just a quick, easy sort, and then you have that reference. A lot of people don't have access to a CRM system to do this sort of tracking and tagging and filtering. And so Sales Navigator is that solution for people who don't have a full CRM that they can do this sort of tagging in.
That's good. So for a lot of, I know a lot of people who are selling B2B, you know, the kind of the key conversion event is to set up a meeting or a call, you know, with that prospect. Any tips, you know, post-conference to do that?
So really it's acknowledging and creating that commonality. So reminding them, people are going to meet so many people during that conference. So when you do message them, you might need to remind them of where you met. So, you know, to say, it was great meeting you at XYZ conference, or it was great sitting next to you at lunch on Tuesday at the conference. So remind people, help jog their memory so that there's not an awkward instance that they don't remember you. That's going to help. Take a look at their profile. Take a look at their website. Take a look at their other social media profiles. Learn something about them and find that commonality. So you already have the event as one point in common. Look to see who else they know in their network. Who else do you know in common? What school did they attend? What are some of their interests? Maybe they list that they were part of a fraternity or sorority on their profile. Find whatever it is that you can spark a more authentic conversation with, and base it around that rather than about a sales pitch. Keep the sales pitch out of it. Again, it's about expanding their knowledge. It's helping to educate. It's helping to solve one of their problems. That's why they were at that conference in the first place. So just continue that. And it's easy if you set up some message templates. So, you know, maybe you have 5 to 6 different messages that you could use, or templates that you could use, depending on who you're reaching out to. If it's a vendor or a speaker or another attendee of the conference, maybe you have a couple different templates that you use. So it makes it easy to do this routine follow-up. But again, just keep that service mindset, that you want to be of service and helpful to people. And do that in your messaging, and do that in the content that you're going to share, and people will be more willing to take your phone calls. But you do have to ask. People aren't automatically going to jump to, you know, call you. You do have to be proactive, and you do have to ask for the phone call, and sometimes you have to ask more than once. So whatever statistic that you look at, whether it's eight times you have to reach a person or 15 times you have to reach a person before they say yes, be consistent. But you can do that through LinkedIn really easily.
That's good. This has been great, Cathy. I so appreciate all the, you know, the system behind it, and how to look at, you know, pre, during, and post conference. Not as just a random, I'm going to throw something out there and see if it sticks, but really
Right.
have a
I'm going to
plan.
see who's there and who I can meet. Yeah. Go in with an idea. And we talk about conferences as these big investments, but you can do this for really any networking event that you plan to attend. If it's your monthly networking event, start there. Set a goal for who you want to meet. What's the outcome? If I'm going to leave the house at night and leave my family behind again for 2 or 3 hours, what's the outcome I want of that networking meeting? And be intentional. Be intentional about the time and the money that you're going to spend there.
This has been great, Cathy. If our viewers want to connect with you online, what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, they can email me at Cathy@revgrow.com, and it's Cathy with a C, or the RevGrow website, or of course LinkedIn. You can search for me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and taking the time to be with us today. Viewers and listeners out there, thanks for attending as well and being a part of this show. And yeah, finally, just have an amazing day. And remember, do not try to sell harder, sell smarter.